Yeah. Hey, by the way, how are you guys doing?
We're doing good. Anthony's going to be the pirate
Why
this
am
call.
That doesn't even fit me.
Oh, we'll see.
I wanted to say Anthony.
There you go. That's so much better.
How? Because you had it on wrong. Anthony, he's got something to say.
I'm sorry. I was focusing on Tracie.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Most of my questions were going to be directed at how to approach or how to talk to people.
Okay.
Okay.
And I think I'll be looking into a lot of your videos from those clips I watched.
Cool.
And thank you for letting me know about all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for your interest in watching it. Yeah, there's I've got several hundred videos on my YouTube channel, and there are other people uploading content as well. So yeah, just do a search.
So are you saying that Anthony has kind of answered your question already, or is that an additional thing?
Oh, it's just an additional thing.
Okay.
Especially in a country where freedom of religion kind of tends to just rail off to just religions being free to do whatever they want, and people who don't have any religion or don't believe in a God are kind of set off to rails because, it's harder to get married, harder to get a will, harder to adopt a child. Because even in the forms that we fill up, like census forms, they don't have an option for no religion. It's just like 6 major religions and 1 others.
Yeah.
You're an atheist living in a largely religious community?
Yeah.
And so what would you say your question is so we can get to it?
My question is regarding, have you guys heard epistemic responsibility?
You broke up a little there. Can you repeat that?
Oh, yeah. Have you guys ever heard about epistemic responsibility?
I have heard the term. Go ahead and tell us your view on it, and we can address it.
I kind of got into this term from researching this term because wherever I would to people, I would usually get a back comment about how it's their opinion and that's all that matters because it's not hurting anyone.
Okay.
You know? And this talk how even a little wrong opinion that you might think is not anybody is actually doing a lot of harm. Even if you think that it's not, you are not being harmed, anyone else is not being harmed, down the road it may harm a lot of people. And even though you were not directly responsible, it is still your epistemic responsibility to acknowledge that.
Are you talking about relativism, that everyone can have their own truth, or are you talking about something different?
No, let me just take a stab. I think what you're saying, just you tell me if you're wrong, if this is wrong, but what I hear you saying is that you talk to people who say, hey, it's just my opinion, it doesn't hurt anybody, so what's the problem? And what you're saying is, your opinion here, because it's not well-founded, could cause problems down the road. And you have to take some responsibility for the fact that you don't care about the truth of your beliefs, and running around believing things whether or not they're true and not caring about that is a recipe for damage.
Yeah, like a parent who doesn't think that their religion is harming anybody would, in turn, like me, would go and make a child's brain more child's brain to struggle more with the studies. Like in 6th standard, I was taught how 5th, 6th standard, I was taught about evolution, but in my heart, I knew, well, that wasn't true, or in how tectonic plates cause, and I was like, yeah, that's some bullshit because Lord Shiva danced, and that's how the earthquakes happen. Because my parents taught me. So even though at the time, like my parents didn't think about it, it kind of affected me along the way. That's what it gets into, right? You might think you're not causing any harm, but like even, let's say that child goes on to become a minister in the cabinet and now imposing laws according to his own opinions or beliefs.
Yeah, I do think that there are a lot of people who haven't given a lot of thought to their views that everyone can have their own truth, or if you just believe it, you make it true. or giving everybody a pass and just saying, well, that's their opinion and they're entitled to it, because these beliefs do motivate people to behave differently and act out on these beliefs. And yeah, it's frustrating. It's frustrating when you know, you're in an environment or you hear people encouraging that type of thinking. I encounter that quite a bit when I meet people who they believe in a God, but they think everybody's God is correct, and because everyone has a right to believe in it, therefore all of these beliefs are true. And that's a huge issue that and I have some ideas on how to overcome that. We can get into that if you want, but.
Can you do the bullet point version?
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Sorry, I cut you guys off.
So if we're talking about this idea of wanting to get to a point where people value objective truth, number one, most people do, for just off the top, even though people say that they don't, I do think people value truth in objective terms, that when push comes to shove, they can, not that I would shove anybody, but they can recognize a difference between opinion and fact. Okay, and the easiest way to go about, I mean, a very simple way is to just say, you know, if I just think that sucker is mine, can I just make it mine and take it? Would you be okay with that?
No, I would not be okay.
People usually can understand where you're going with that. Another thing that you can do, I'm starting to carry around this little box of Tic Tacs where I ask people if there's an odd number or an even number of total pieces of candy in the box. And some people will surprisingly say it can be both simultaneously. But we talk about how that can actually be possible, and then people usually start to realize that that's not the case. You can ask a person a hard fact. Are armadillos live bearers or egg layers? It's one or the other. Whether I think that they're egg layers, if they're really live bearers, well, then I would be mistaken on that. We both can't be correct. So fortunately, like I said at the start, people usually do value objective truth, even though they say that they don't. And if you up the stakes just a little bit, if you sort of involve maybe a loved one in the decision, you know, if I just think that putting my child in a car seat, but not strapping it in, is safe, does it make it safe? Usually around that point, people start coming around on it and realizing that, oh, okay, yeah, I just can't make something true just because I believe that it's true. So there are a couple ways around that. I made a blog post about that too. You can find that on the Street Epistemology website. You can check
I think that baby car seat example is a really good one. I mean, Avi, have you tried things like that? Because I don't know if I have. I mean, definitely I give examples of harm, but that's a good one because people would be like, I'm not putting my baby in a car seat.
That's the thing. People say that they live that way, but when you ask them a few simple questions, they discover that they don't.
Right.
Because they would never put a seatbelt on if they just could make it true in their mind that I would be safe driving down the street.
And with the baby, though, it's even worse because he's like, I probably would care more about the baby than myself, you know? Like,
well, that's the interesting thing is a lot of people.
It would be a great example. It's just that down here, rarely anyone wears a seatbelt.
I had a feeling you were going to go.
But I mean, there's got to be certain things where they do something for the safety of a baby, where you can. The baby, you know, if it gets into the fire, it'll learn. Yeah, no,
Do you seek out a doctor and give your baby medicine, or do you go to?
No, they might actually be.
No, I've had actually quite a lot of success family. They have stopped calling me specifically to their rituals in the family.
They've stopped calling you.
I mean, they do want me around. No, they do want me around. It's just I'm not forced to sit in one of those, which I usually really was forced to do every day, and they had one.
Maybe you could use the rituals as an example, right? Like if you're going to wave the feathers over the baby's head, but then not drop that last feather, you know, would you do that, Mom? If I mean, would they do the ritual wrong if they believed it was going to help? I don't know. Maybe you could put it in terms they might.
I once did a very, very crazy thing in front of my mom. She was praying to a goddess, and I just got a loaf of bread and in front of me, and I started praying to it, and she was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Well, the same thing you are. It's just that this will feed me in the end, and that won't feed you."
I pray for food, and the loaf answered. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Answered, exactly.
Okay.
And
well, I hope we were
helpful.
helpful.
My mom has really opened up.
It sounds like you're the voice of reason in your household, and I think it's good. Just try not to get too carried away with the antics where you end up pushing people away. Okay, so just keep in mind that.
Yeah, I fear that all the time.
Yeah, because I think they're very fortunate to have you around, but just be careful you don't go too far, because you don't want them to.
Yeah, I'll be careful.
Disfellowship you like the last.
Been a lot of help. Okay. I watch your show all the time.
Oh,
this
good.
is my second time talk Tracie.
Oh, okay.
I recognize your voice. I think I've listened to you, Colin.
I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, cool. And like. I get arguments from you guys, especially the slavery argument I put forth in front of my French friend. He's from DRC, Congo. His friend. I asked him, how could you believe in a God which essentially propagated slavery for the entire African continent? And it kind of got us talking, and eventually he was thinking I'm the right person to talk about this. And I was like, yeah, most of the people say that. Okay. Because you haven't actually even read your Bible carefully, which I have.
Well, I'm glad that it was helpful. We do have to move on with some other calls, but I want to thank you.
Yes, of course. Sorry to.
No, you're fine. Thanks,
you. Thanks, Avi.
Okay.
Cool.
Bye-bye.
Great talking to you guys.
Yeah.
Take care. Bye.
Same.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.